Hi guys, yes, it's me, your dorky friend, Lisa. Sorry it's been a couple weeks, I've been busy. Girlfriend got, things going on. Maybe a pandemic, but girlfriend's still working. Okay, so today we're going to talk about a rather touchy subject for a lot of people. It is something that came out, honestly, it came out, oh gosh. Let me just start where, okay. We're going to talk about Corey Feldman choreography. Also, his movie that came out a few months ago. He put this book out in, oh Jesus, what year was it? Sorry. Why can I not find the date on this? I'm slacking here, people. Sorry. Yeah, I'm horrible. Unprepared girlfriend. Sorry. Put this book out in 2013 when well, I wouldn't say shortly after, but a couple years after Corey Haim had died. And if you're from my generation, it was the two Coreys. It was literally like every girl had a Corey. You were either a Haim or a Feldman, and I have to say, I was a Haim. Yeah. Anyway, of course, I picked up the. Yeah. I'll get into that. Anyway, well, a few years ago, obviously, when this book came out, he was talking about the what we now know is the hashtag Kids2 movement. Before it was a movement where basically kids in Hollywood, including himself, and he didn't really name any other child actors at the times, name how the Hollywood machine was basically molesting and using these children and spitting them out, thus leading them into lives of molesting others, of course, which commonly occurs when you're molested as a child. You think that that's normal. Drug abuse, suicide, depression, basically horrible lives, sadly to say. In the book, like I said, choreography, which is a really, really good story. I highly recommend it, even if you're not into the Coreys, because you're not from my age group. I think you should honestly read it just because it's, very scathing rendering of what these Hollywood children go through, or just him in general as a person. He grew up in a house where his mother didn't really work when he was alive. When he was a child living at home or whatever. Him and his sister both were kind of the bread makers of the family. His sister, until I read this book, I had no clue, was a Mouseketeer. In the whole era when, Brittany, Justin, Christina were all Mouseketeers. So was his sister. And he started making commercials from the age of 3. His first one being McDonald's. He was a cute little chubby kid. He got all kinds of work, tons and tons of commercials, like hundreds of commercials he did by the time he was, even in double digits of age at 10, He basically had, well, I wouldn't say his father was abusive, more neglective. He was a musician and a cover band. And his mother, like I said, didn't work. She was an at-home mom, but a very neglectful mom. She had been a one of those Playboy Bunny waitresses in the Playboy clubs back in the day. Anyway, she had drug and alcohol issues, thus she took it out on Corey. His sister, it seemed like from the story, didn't get as much physical abuse as Corey did. I mean, like, literally there's stories of like his mother coming after him, beat him, where he's basically like hiding under the crib of his younger brother. And basically he would go to his grandparents and just stay there for periodic times. And when he got older, when his father could kind of mooch off of him, he lived with his father. And then his father, when he was becoming like a name, because like I said, in my time period, like literally you can pick up a teen magazine without Corey Haim and Corey Feldman being on the cover. It was the two Coreys, you know. When he got into that period of time, his father took over being his manager, which basically meant he was just basically siphoning all of Corey's money, trying to take advantage of him. And Corey started, you know, using drugs hardcore. You know, by the time he was doing Stand By Me, which is legendary if you've ever seen it. It's based on Stephen King's The Body. A lot of people don't realize that, which is a short story, but it's, you know, it's a classic. Corey Feldman, River Phoenix, Jerry O'Connell, Will Wheaton. Like, it was, you know, everybody who was anybody in that time period, like, wanted a role in that movie. It was like the deal. But by that time he was, you know, he was smoking pot and then started getting into other things, and he was a child. Anyway, then fast forward when he was, you know, in his early teen years, I guess, you know, actually hanging out with Corey Haim, because even though they were kind of like being marketed together, they hadn't actually worked together yet until Lost Boys came along. And then, like, after that, they were trying to put them in everything together. And Haim, Feldman wanted his, like, kind of like his own career, being separate. He didn't want to be one of the two Coreys, which is understandable. He's a very talented actor. Anyway, and so then by the time him and Haim became friends and were hanging out regularly, Corey had already had, like, sort of been molested somewhat, not full on, like, penetrative, like, abusive sex, I would say, but still molested by people in the industry, and people that were supposed to be looking out for him. Nobody that was, like, a name now, unlike Haim, which I'll get into. Anyway, Corey Haim, however, was not so lucky. If you watch the Rape of Two Coreys, the biography that came out sort of recently, like a few months ago at the beginning of the pandemic, it came out. Anyway, I finally broke down and watched it and cried. Yeah. Anyway, so Haim, however, was a little bit more, I guess, I want to say jaded and, like, a little bit more, like, warped by and been further abused than Feldman had, even though Feldman had been abused. Corey Haim, who sadly died of an overdose, well, not an overdose, but, like, the abuse on his body from all the continuing drug use led to his death. They tried to say at the time that it happened that it was an overdose, and Feldman was like, no. Corey's been clean for like a year, because they at the time had been filming their documentary, like, series for TV. They got in their first season. We're going to start on the second season, but of course that fell through because Corey died, of course. But all the abuse basically from the drugs over the years had taken its toll on his body, because he had a serious painkiller addiction. But he, again, like I said, was not so lucky in the coping mechanisms, I guess. I mean, Feldman used hardcore drugs. He got pulled into it and he went to court. He was on parole. You know, I don't think he never actually did any time for anything, but he did have to, basically be, you know, a paroled kind of, like, deal, I guess. Like, you have to, like, go to meetings and, like, blah, 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 all that good stuff. Anyway, whereas Haim, again, spoiler alert, in Feldman's autobiography, he talks about the people that molested him. He didn't go into the stuff about Haim, but Haim had wanted Corey to, if you watch the documentary, because he wanted his story out there. He just didn't have the nerve to say it himself, because he knew there was one big name that if it came out, there would be hell to pay. Even Corey, when the documentary was getting ready to come out, the rape of Corey's, he put extra security on himself because he had death threats and all kinds of crazy shit going on, which I don't blame him. And he basically sunk all his money into this to put the story out there, which I give him kudos, props for. But basically, Corey Haim and Feldman both, like I said, had been molested by different people in the industry, and people that are supposed to be looking out for him. But Corey Haim, when he was super young, his first big project, which was Lucas, was raped. Full-on raped. Not just like, la la, let's play around kind of deal. Full-on raped by Charlie Sheen. Which, if you know, that is a big family in Hollywood, the Sheen family. So, yeah. He's been known to be a little bit crazy, I think, personally. From the way history goes in the story, I think probably Charlie Sheen himself was molested, because he seems to fit the patterns. He molested other people. He has had constant drug abuse. He has had bouts of depression. He's admitted to being a sex addict. So, like, these are signs of him himself being molested. So I think he should get help, personally. But what do I know? I'm just a regular person. Anyway, but this thus led into situations with Haim throughout his childhood. Like, Haim thought it was normal for this kind of activity to go on. And he thought guys, whether they have any sort of, well, I mean, I personally, as the bisexual person, feel like everybody's, you know, somewhere in the middle of the spectrum, even if they say they're straight or gay, because there's always that, like, one person, I feel like. But whether people are straight or gay, he always thought guys just fooled around with guys to fool around, because that's what guys did, he was told. So the other frog brother from the Lost Boys apparently came forward during all of this and said that that Haim jerked off in a jacuzzi with him. He was kind of like, what's going on, kind of like deal. But, you know, and he also at one point masturbated in front of Feldman, and he asked Feldman to bring over guy friends for him to, you know, basically fool around with if there was no girls available. So, let's see, what else did I want to go into on this? So, with all of that being said, because this is getting kind of long here, sorry, so much, literally, if you watch the documentary and read the book, so much. I highly recommend doing it. Anyway, so, like, one of the, remember I was saying, like, he was getting threats and stuff from the documentary. The wolf pack, or as he called, was basically, which is Corey Haim's mother, who had Corey Feldman's back earlier, was now, like, not wanting, basically, her complacency with everything that went on with Haim to get out. So that's why she was threatening him. That's some bullshit. That woman needs jail time. Anyway, because she let that shit happen to her kid. Anyway, so Corey now, though, I have to say I'm very super proud of him. Not only is he a well-functioning married adult with, you know, a child, a home, a full life and career behind him, of course, and more going on in the future. He basically has not only done, you know, developed himself into a functioning human being, which is great, with kudos with all this things that happened to him in his childhood. But he, if you're not familiar with SAG, which is the Screen Actors Guild, they are the ones that basically control the film industry. Pretty much, they are supposed to protect and help actors. Basically, he has now worked with them to where he's on 4 different committees, 4, not one before, different committees to help protect child actors in the industry. Him and the, I did not realize this, but the head of SAG is actually the girl who played Andrea from 90210 back in the day. Like, go Andrea! Anyway, so he's done that. And also he has helped make changes to legislation. Can I talk? Anyway, legislation in California and LA about molestation charges. He got it for a time, certain amount of time, which I think ends like this year or next year, to where any case from the past, because there's always statutes of limitation, was suspended. Like, no statute of limitation. Like, he could have been like literally like molested like 40 years ago and come forward and try to press charges against these people. So I'm like, kudos, Corey, because not only did you help yourself, but you are helping others. And I'm like, yeah, you do it, man. So I'm a Feldman now. All right, thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed this, and please go pick up the book. It's been out for a few years, but it's a good read. It's twisted. He's had a life, but kudos to you, Corey. Have a good one. Bye, guys. Comment down below if you enjoy the book after you read it. Let me know. Bye.